At 78, Barry Gibb finally tells the truth about Andy Gibb. Barry Gibb was born Barry Allen Crompton Gibb on September 1, 1946, in a place called Douglas on the Isle of Man. He is one of the most famous musicians, singers, and songwriters in music today. When Barry was young, he showed he was really good at music. His family saw how talented he was and helped him start performing with his brothers, Robin and Maurice. Together, they made a group that became one of the most famous bands in the world, the Bee Gees. They started small with little shows in Australia in the 1950s, but they were so good that soon people all over the world knew who they were. The Bee Gees became super successful in the late 1960s and 1970s. They were amazing at singing together and helped create the pop and disco sound that everyone loved. Barry had a special high singing voice called falsetto, and he became the leader of the group. He wrote most of their songs too. He wrote and helped make countless hit songs, not just for the Bee Gees, but for other famous singers as well. Songs like Staying Alive, How Deep Is Your Love, and Night Fever became songs that everyone knew and loved. These songs were part of the Saturday Night Fever movie time and made the Bee Gees the kings of disco music. But Barry didn't just write disco music. He was so good at writing songs that he could write any kind of music. He wrote songs for and worked with singers like Barbra Streisand, Dolly Parton, Kenny Rogers, Diana Ross, and Dionne Warwick. He could write pop songs, country songs, R&B songs, and songs for grown-ups. Very few songwriters have ever been as successful as Barry. Barry has written over 1,000 songs and had hit songs for many, many years. He was put into the Songwriters Hall of Fame and the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame because he changed music forever. While Barry's work life was full of great things, his personal life was mixed with happy times and very sad times with his family. The Bee Gees weren't just a band. They were brothers who shared the same blood and loved music together. When his brothers Andy, Maurice, and Robin died, Barry felt terrible sadness because he was the only Gibb brother left alive. In many interviews, he has talked openly about how much it hurts to be the only one left. But he has kept going and honors their memory by keeping their music alive for new people to hear. His strength, kindness, and hard work to keep the Bee Gees' music alive make him a symbol of never giving up even when life is really hard. Barry's impact isn't just in his records, but also in how he touches the hearts of millions of people around the world. His high singing voice became one of the most famous voices in music history, and when he performed on stage, he showed both confidence and warmth. Even after being in the music business for decades, he kept performing with passion, connecting with people who grew up with the Bee Gees and with younger fans who were hearing their music for the first time. How long his career lasted and how his music never gets old proved that really great music lasts forever. Barry Gibb's personal life, just like his career, has been full of big moments, dramatic changes, and very important relationships. His first marriage was to Maureen Bates, a young woman he married on August 22, 1966, when he was only 19 years old. At that time, Barry was still trying to become a famous musician, and he was trying to balance his quickly growing career with the responsibilities of being an adult. Their marriage didn't last very long, though. Even though they seemed like they wanted to build a life together at first, their marriage had problems because of Barry's growing fame and the tough pressures of being famous. The couple only lived together for a short time, and by July 1970, they got divorced. People often look back on this short marriage as an important time in Barry's personal journey, showing how hard it was for young stars to have stable lives during the crazy 1960s pop culture time. Not long after his first marriage ended, something wonderful happened that brought Barry to the woman who would become the love of his life. While taping the BBC's very popular music show called Top of the Pops in London, Barry met Linda Gray, who was famous herself as the former Miss Edinburgh. Barry described meeting her as a moment of real luck, and they fell in love quickly. On September 1st, 1970, which happened to be his 24th birthday, Barry Gibb and Linda Gray, married. This started what has become one of the longest-lasting marriages in the entertainment world. Their marriage has been the most important thing for Barry's personal stability, lasting through the craziness of fame, changes in the music business, and even the heartbreaking loss of his brothers. Together, Barry and Linda didn't just build a marriage, but also a big and close family. They are the proud parents of 5 children: Stephen, Ashley, Travis, Michael, and Alexandra. Their oldest child, Stephen Gibb, decided to follow in his father's footsteps by becoming a musician too. He became both a guitar player and a songwriter, even working with heavy metal and rock bands, showing the wide variety of musical influences in the Gibb family. Barry is also a grandfather many times over with 7 grandchildren who have brought even more joy into his life. Barry has often talked about how his wife and children keep him grounded, saying they give him purpose and help him stay balanced when being a star gets overwhelming. In 2009, Barry and Linda made their connection to the United States even stronger by officially becoming U.S. citizens while also keeping their UK citizenship. Having citizenship in both countries showed not only Barry's lasting love for his British roots, but also his long-term commitment to the country where much of his adult life and professional success had happened. By this time, Barry had been living mainly in the United States since 1974, though he continued to keep a home in the UK as a connection to where he came from. Barry Gibb's personal life also crossed paths with another music superstar, Michael Jackson. In a 2014 interview with The Mirror, Barry talked fondly about the friendship he had with the king of pop. He revealed that Jackson would often stay at the Gibb family house in Miami, where he liked the comfort of Barry's family environment better than the chaos of hotel life. Barry painted a picture of Jackson's quirky and childlike side, sitting in the kitchen, watching fans outside his hotel on television, giggling in his famous high-pitched laugh. He, he, he. He remembered that Jackson even lived upstairs for a while, right before the highly publicized court case about child abuse accusations. Barry was clear in saying that they never talked about the legal case. Instead, their friendship was built on making music together and being friends. The two would write music together, share wine, and even drink enough sometimes that Jackson would fall asleep on the floor. Barry admitted that he deeply misses Jackson, showing the sense of loss he feels, not just as a fan of Jackson's music, but as a friend who knew him personally. Real estate also played an interesting part in Barry's life. In January 2006, he bought one of the most historically important properties in American music history, the former home of Johnny Cash and June Carter Cash in Hendersonville, Tennessee. Barry's plan wasn't just to own the house, but to fix it up and turn it into a place where songwriters could go to be creative. A place where creativity and musical history could come together. The house, however, met a tragic end. While it was being renovated in April 2007, the property caught fire and was completely destroyed, erasing a piece of cultural history. Despite this heartbreaking loss, Barry had a new home built on the property, honoring the land and the musical spirit that had once lived there. Finally, in 2010, he decided to sell the estate, ending a chapter on a project that had carried both dreams and disappointment. At 78, Barry Gibb finally opened up about the truth about his youngest brother, Andy Gibb, in a way he had never done before. For decades, Barry, who had been both older brother and mentor, had carefully protected his private sadness, choosing instead to celebrate Andy's amazing talent and charm whenever people asked about him. Now, at an age where thinking back and being honest become more important than keeping up carefully built public walls, Barry let himself speak with rare openness. He admitted the complicated mixture of pride, joy, regret, and sadness that had always been part of his relationship with Andy. Andy Gibb was more than just the baby brother of the Bee Gees. To Barry, he was a boy full of light and potential, a naturally gifted singer whose charm seemed effortless. From the moment Andy first started performing, Barry saw flashes of brilliance that matched what he and his brothers had achieved as a group. When Andy released hits like I Just Want to Be Your Everything and Shadow Dancing, Barry wasn't just his co-writer and producer, he was his biggest supporter, putting his own creative energy into making sure Andy succeeded. In those days, Barry often said Andy was the Gibb with the purest pop voice, a natural-born star who could have ruled the world stage for decades. But behind Andy's youthful smile and love from millions of fans, Barry saw a weakness that few others noticed, the truth that Barry revealed. At 78 was that Andy's quick rise to fame came too fast, too young, and without the emotional strength to handle it. Barry admitted that he had worried constantly about his brother's vulnerability, his need for love, his longing for acceptance, and the way the pressures of fame made those insecurities bigger. Andy, he explained, was pushed into the spotlight before he had time to truly grow up, and that left him open to the destructive temptations that fame brought with it. Barry did not avoid the hardest part of the story, Andy's struggles with drug addiction. For years, Barry had spoken carefully about it, never wanting to turn his brother's memory into just a warning story. But in this later reflection, Barry admitted how devastating it was to watch Andy battle his inner demons. He described the helplessness of knowing that no matter how much love and support the family gave, Andy could not fully escape the grip of drugs and the emotional pain that came with them. Barry's truth was not one of judgment, but of deep, lasting sadness. He admitted that he had often asked himself if there was more he could have done, if a different kind of guidance or tougher love might have saved Andy's life. When Andy passed away in 1988 at just 30 years old, Barry was destroyed. Losing his baby brother was a wound that never truly healed. At 78, he confessed that even after all the victories of the Bee Gees, the awards, the recognition, and the legacy that spanned generations, Andy's absence was the silent shadow over it all. Every time Barry performed one of Andy's songs or heard his voice on a recording, it was as if time folded in on itself, reminding him of what was lost far too soon. Yet Barry also shared the truth about the love that continued beyond death. He spoke about how Andy remained alive in memory, in music, and in the unbreakable bond of brotherhood. He carried Andy with him in every lyric he wrote, in every note he sang, and on every stage he stepped onto. The truth, Barry said, was that Andy was never just the younger brother who didn't get enough time. He was an important part of the Gibb family's story, someone whose presence shaped the very fabric of their lives. At 78, Barry Gibb, the legendary Bee Gees' frontman, finally opened up in an honest and heartfelt interview about his younger brother Andy Gibb, revealing emotions and truths that he had carried privately for decades. Thinking about his brother's life, Barry shared, Andy was a shining star, but he struggled in ways that people didn't fully understand. He was full of talent, full of life, but sometimes the pressures of fame and the lifestyle around him were too much to handle. The loss of Andy, who died tragically at just 30 years old, had left a permanent mark on Barry's life, one that he said he only fully understood with the passage of time. Barry remembered that the day Andy passed away was just 5 days after his 30th birthday, a milestone that should have been a moment of celebration, but instead became a moment of grief. He remembered with regret, "We had a disagreement shortly before his birthday, and I never imagined that would be the last time I would see him alive. I carry that with me every day." Barry's thoughts went beyond the tragic final moments. He spoke of Andy's charm, his musical genius, and the way he captured audiences with his soulful voice and natural charisma. Andy had something special, Barry explained, something that could touch hearts effortlessly. People loved him not just for his music, but for who he was, his kindness, his humor, his warmth. But fame can be a double-edged sword, and it's something I wish I could have protected him from more. The conversation also highlighted Barry's lasting sense of responsibility and guilt as an older brother, feelings he described as both heavy and motivating. "I always tried to guide him, to support him. But sometimes love isn't enough when someone is fighting their own battles," he admitted. Throughout the interview, Barry Gibb's words carried both sorrow and admiration. He remembered personal memories of Andy, moments that showed his brother's playful spirit, his dedication to music, and the deep bond they shared as family. "We were brothers first, musicians second," Barry emphasized. "The music was our language, but it was our family that defined us. Losing Andy so young was like losing a piece of myself, and it's something that never truly goes away." In finally sharing these thoughts publicly, Barry not only honored Andy's memory, but also gave a touching glimpse into the human side of the Gibb family, a story of love, regret, and lasting brotherhood. His thoughts are a reminder of both the brilliance and fragility of life, and how even in the middle of fame and success, family and connection remain the most important anchors of all. At 78, Barry Gibb's words were not simply a revelation about Andy, but a testament to the lasting complexity of family love, unconditional, joyous, sometimes heartbreaking, but always eternal. For Barry, telling the truth about Andy was not just about setting the record straight. It was about finally giving voice to the love, the pain, and the unspoken memories that had lived within him for nearly 4 decades.